Imagine this. You're just a normal guy chilling in your living room, living in the most prosperous town in the entire realm, and all of a sudden, a giant octopus spaceship invades your homeland, kidnaps you with its tentacles, closes you into a pod tighter than those caves I've seen on YouTube where people die. Those videos give me claustrophobia. And then to top it all off, this octopus guy shoves a living worm into your eye. Then, because your day couldn't get any worse, some green people riding literal dragons, who are also anatomically incorrect. If real life dragons would exist, they would have 2 legs, not 4. Just look at how real life birds look. But we're talking about literal Martian people riding dragons who come chasing after a flying octopus. We have a chase scene that would make Jason Statham blush, only to end up in literal hell. Does it sound like a fever dream? No? Because we're not done. Then Dragonfire unlocks the pod, because in this action movie we play the part of Indiana Jones, call me off-duty Spider-Man. Then we stretch a little before receiving communication through our new personal phone, a brain with legs. We are informed that Tentacle Daddy tasked us to hijack the control panel of the ship to get out of hell, and while doing that, we are also collecting women in our party like it's that new anime game that transformed horse racing into Genshin Impact. Or at least that's how that game was presented to me. I'm not brave enough to go near such degeneracy. On star positions in our new situation, we have Green Woman with Greatsword that was probably spunked in childhood if she didn't rip the wings of every butterfly she saw, and Damsel in Distress with a strange fascination for black balls with spiky bits. If your mind went to the gutter by now, it means I did my job well. And all of that in only 30 minutes, concluding the intro and my attempt to convince you to play Baldur's Gate 3. You didn't think you were getting marketed at, did you? Anyway, now that I promoted the cult of Shadowheart that my friend the role-playing Jaina presides, it's time to get to the actual story. So we're falling out of the sky into a place that the fauna makes me want to describe as Fantasy Australia, and after some confusion of how, after all that we are still alive, we start going back to what we were doing, which is collecting hot people in what we decided to name a party. Our interests develop further now, and where it was just human girls and alien girls before, now hot guy elves with white hair and fangs, hot guys with robes and hot guys with a totally non-weird radical stance on devils are allowed. We seduce them all by being relatable in describing how we all have a big worm into our brains about to turn us into tentacle daddies, and somehow they find that sexy and join us. After that, we're getting rejected by Black Ball Lady when trying to ask her about her kinks, and Green Lady consoles us by saying that the Martian colony is close by and has more beautiful babes there. Also, probably a cure to the worms in our head.
You know, Tom, there are doctors in London now, can talk their way into your head, dig out all the shit. Perhaps you should see one.
With our hearts broken but full of determination, we arrive to the main place of our story, the Emerald Grove. Meet Zevlor, who we will describe as a compassionate asshole. Compassionate because he cares about his people, and an asshole because he seems to threaten or propose murder every time a problem comes his way. This guy compromised his position? Well, it's a good thing I came here to intervene. This bitch tries to kick him out of the grove? Well, surely he will think about something rational and peaceful. Anyway, trouble struck this kin of red people, also named the Tieflings. I will keep calling them red people because I had to Google the correct spelling, and Google AI made fun of me, so now I'm insecure about opening Google ever again. Zevlor and the rest of his peers face a great threat because the Druids, these wonderful nature people who are the most self-entitled asses you'll ever meet, want to kick them out and isolate themselves from the entire world. All because some goblins threaten them, and the Druids definitely cannot deal with them any other way. Except one Druid has the power to kill like 5 goblins alone. If you didn't know, kids, if someone ever comes to you dressed in a suit, looking all peaceful and speaks about natural order, remember he means that the strong get stronger and the weak get weaker. He's probably a capitalist and wants to sell you something. We of course don't care about who the goblins will have for dessert, because with all our kind hearts, a literal alien worm is in our brains, and that tends to take priority over heroism. That's until this small druid lady tries to kill us, which somehow makes us listen to her problems. after she decides murdering us is not the solution to everything, Zevlor could learn some lessons. She tells us that her master, who of course was captured by goblins, was researching the way to cure the alien worms, because goblin genocide had to be justified somehow. So we conveniently forget about Green Lady's plan of Martian colony, and we jump straight in the conflict between druids, goblins and elves, with our first good deed being to save a child that was about to get eaten alive by a snake, because this bitch thinks letting her snake pet eat a child is what Mother Nature would have wanted. I can really see that in a National Geographic documentary. So, how do we free Druid Daddy, save the grove and get healed? Well, for that we must go to the Goblin territory. First, the Blighted Village, where we learn that we can actually control the goblins by looking at some strange runes on their faces and using the worm in our head. Or, how the narrator says it very sensually, we feel power.
Authority.
But I feel too cool as a person to rely on my parasite, so I instead convinced this beautiful goblin lady to not shove arrows down my ass the good old traditional way, by rolling 2 dices with advantage and succeeding. We passed their wonderful village leaving nothing but peace and prosperity in our wake. Well, unless you're one of the big spiders, then you die because I wanted a new robe, where these guys whom we interrupted in their special moments killed them and then used necromancy disguised as an orc to siphon for further info. But at least these ogres liked us. So much that we're now their officially new one-time pass for delicious sins. Then we arrive at the goblin camp. I try to charm my way into it, but the tactician difficulty goblin figures out I was trying to charm him not only with my looks, but with a spell, and decided to fight me to the death. It wasn't my death. Then, to ensure that doesn't happen again, we went back to the grove and released a goblin from jail, whom we let rotting there earlier due to her being mean to me. I'm really sensitive, guys. But now her help was needed to avoid another goblin genocide. And we get in. In the camp, we can enjoy our time with the locals, chasing chickens, telling very not morbid stories, sometimes even being a general menace. When the fun is over, we can also go meet the important people. But one more chicken first! It must be noted, we've seen the power to influence Goblin a few more times now, and it works wonders. In Goblin superstition, it comes from a god named the Absolute, whom they worship. Apparently, we're on the list of good boys with the Absolute, due to our space worm, which is good when these green tiny murder machines obey us instead of trying to expose our guts, but it also kind of fucks us up because we started seeing ghosts at one point, and the only thing that prevented us from becoming ghost bootlickers was the spiky ball? Well, Shadowheart finally confessed her kinks after that. After some hot rolls on persuasion, she spilled the tea of her devotion to darkness, of her mission, and of how her cult literally wipes her memory so that she doesn't spill the tea any further. Honestly, that was a smart play from them, they accounted for my raise. It kind of reminds me of Danzo from Naruto, with a tongue seal, and I don't know what to believe about the cult resembling the root Ambu. Moving on. In the Temple of Goblins, which is a temple of the goddess of light, we meet the 3 true souls of the goblin camp, which is a beautiful way of saying that they are 3 tentacle daddies in training. We are also true souls, which doesn't shine a good light on my future dating prospect. Would you date me if I was a tentacle monster, dear viewer? No? I understand. Lae'zel probably agrees. First tentacle daddy in training, or better put tentacle mommy, Mintara, the direct superior of the goblin we freed, whose main characteristic, except for being absolutely gorgeous, is that she's an absolute shill of this god. Pun intended, that's how I plan to ace her. Her being a shill doesn't really work with my plans, but after trying violence to convince her that listening to the murderer's god is not a good idea, and getting my ass handed to me, it only makes me like you more, sweetie. I reload and decide to play it smart. I don't know if it ever will be meant to be, but I will always put on non-lethal against her. It's the least I could do for love. After acquainting myself with the other true souls, sparing the one my friend said he always kills, and killing the other one since she decided to make our consensual intimate moment totally non-consensual. Well, it was time to eat out of there because Mintara already decided to pull her goblins in motion to invade the grove. But not before releasing Halsim. We find him in a cage, stoned by goblins, transformed into a giant bat. We succeed in defeating the goblins together, making this the second goblin genocide of this video. A third one is coming as well, because we agreed to help in the defense of the grove the next day. So long for my pacifistic plans. We slept well that night, totally unfazed by Lae'zel trying to murder us in an attempt at a less romantic but just as intense version of Romeo and Juliet. Our fairy godmother, with a bit more beard, visited us in our sleep that night, promising we'll keep our good looks as long as we listen to him. And guess what he told us to do? To consume another one of those goddamn worms. Which my whole party said it was disgusting. Except Gale, because he knows how it is to consume things people should have no business digesting. And that brings us to the battlefront. How do we defeat the entire goblin army, led by a level 6 paladin? Well, my first plan was fair combat, which quickly derailed when I saw that these spiders can jump on the gates and also can down the character with one smooth motion. So, in desperation, I sounded the horn of ogres, which worked as well as one would expect, with all the battlefield becoming hostile to me, including my friend in my headphones. Time to reload. Second attempt, we remembered the smoking gun. So, the red people decided to fill the battlefield with oil barrels. Which is a good strategy since, you know, we're up on the gate and they're not.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
But they said they would put all the oil they could spare, which to be honest was insultingly low considering that's their ticket to survival. However, earlier I, Thief Maestro Arvan, guided by my rogue friend who actually knows how to play the game, stole a bunch of barrels with explosive capabilities. And so, let me present to you the battlefield. Just glorious. It only takes one spark and... oh, it's so good. And again, look at that beauty. All my enemies dying like the army of Stannis Baratheon at the Battle of Blackwater. Call me Tyrion Lannister, a joke that works even better because I stole these barrels as a dwarf. And after knocking out Mintara and promising her that our love will endure everything that will come our way, we went to listen to a lame speech from Zevlor about survival and the satisfying scolding that this bitch got from Druid Daddy. What a perfect ending. So, that was the story of how we saved the Emerald Grove. I love Baldur's Gate. It's one of the most personal games I played in a while. I really felt victorious once the battle was over, in a way only difficult Souls bosses made me feel before. That and the Pantheon of Halnest. I hope you enjoyed this story as much as I enjoyed experiencing it, and if this video does well, I'm sure there will be more stories about space worms and beautiful blue girls to be told. Until then, if you liked it, hit subscribe. I promise I will try to post faster than once a year from now on, and thank you very much for watching. May the good winds be with you.